Once upon a time, Zeus fell in love with a mortal woman with whom he had a child. Nobody believed the poor Semele when she told it was the king of all the gods with whom she had this child. They all thought it was a more common sort of phenomenon. What's more is that even her father and all her family did not believe this fact.
Yes, but the events get even more tragic as the jealous hero seeks revenge. She tells Semele to summon Zeus in his true form, which is tragically enough a bolt of lightning, which sets her house on fire. As the house burns with her inside, the baby remains miraculously untouched, while her life serves as a fuel for this sea of flames.
As the house burns, the child remains amongst the ruins of this burned down structure. Zeus, feeling sympathy for what he has caused on this earth, sends his loyal messenger Hermes to pick up the child and bring it to him, to the mountain of Olympus, where he will be raised amongst fellow gods.
Ah, so this child grew up amongst the gods and he became Dionysus, the god of the wine. Later he wanted revenge on the family of his mother, and therefore he went to Thebes, and he put all the women under his spell, so that they would serve him and dance for him around the fire on the mountain.
In Thebes, there are three main players for our story. First off, there's Cadmus. He is the old king and Semele's father. His grandson Pentus is the one who is in power at the moment. He is a very stubborn and steadfast person, very unpredictable. Third off, there is Tiresias, an old wise fellow and a dear friend of Cadmus, the old king. Our story starts when Tiresias pays a visit to King Cadmus.
That was to tell him of this new god Dionysus, because he wants to travel to Mount Kithaeron together to celebrate Dionysus' existence. Cadmus is happy to see Tiresias again, but the subject quickly becomes very serious. Tiresias tells about the festivities and the new rites. He tries to convince Cadmus to join him, to go to the mountain and dance for Dionysus. Cadmus decides to trust his old friend, and together they talk about the new world that opens itself to them. They agree to join the rites as soon as possible, and they want to leave. They plan to get their most fancy clothes and dresses to go to that mountain.
Oh, but the king of Thebes, Pentus, overheard the two men talking, and he is not happy at all. All the women in his town went crazy and joined the rites, and he doesn't want any more of this nonsense. They have a fierce argument about whether Dionysus is a god or not, but no matter what, Tiresias and Cadmus say he won't listen. Cadmus tries to calm him down, but Pentus can't take this anymore. He forbids the two men to join Dionysus. He thinks that the irresponsible behavior of the women shows that this has nothing to do with the divines, but only with evil. The arguments of the two others become stronger and stronger, but Pentus doesn't listen.
In Pento's rage, he sends them away and tells them to never even think of those rites again. Slowly, Tiresias and Cadmus retreat. There is nothing they can do against the will of their king. Pentos orders to capture everyone who is connected to these Bacchic rites.
Oh, yes, I remember. That's when the gods found someone, a stranger, who was actually Dionysus in disguise. Pentheus sees him as the high priest of the fake god and decides to interrogate him to get a better idea of this threat to his city. Pentheus dismissed the god after he forced the disguised Dionysus on the ground. Pentheus started his examination, asking this priest several questions about his background. Although Pentheus demanded answers, Dionysus just wouldn't listen. The only thing he mentioned was that Pentheus was wrong. He simply ignored all the questions asked, and he thereby drove Pentheus even madder. Pentheus kept on asking questions, interrogating, investigating, but Dionysus still refrained from answering.
Slowly, Pentheus was getting really fed up with the stranger. After giving him one last chance to answer, Pentheus gave up. His outrage made place for action. Pentheus pulled up Dionysius and walked him towards prison. Surprisingly, the stranger did not show any kind of resistance, and walked into the prison quite easily, knowing he would be freed. Pentheus has a short moment of disbelief and confusion, which quickly disappears as he locked the door.
Dionysus, to prove Pentheus wrong and for his own survival, calls upon the divine powers such as lightning and earthquake, upon his castle and his prison. He is able to escape, and so is Pentheus, and they rendezvous outside the building in a small area of nature.
Oh, this is where my favourite bit starts. They quickly ran away from the collapsing castle, and once again, Pentheus was completely outraged and furious, whilst Dionysus was nothing but calm and laid back. The king of Thebes stated that he had enough of all this new god and his followers, and he shouted at Dionysus that he was going to find these right-performing women and murder them. Dionysus stopped him and came up with what seemed like a good idea. He told Pentheus to dress up like a woman, so that he could spy on the Bacchae without being noticed. Dionysus spontaneously received a dress from a very pretty feminine female woman. Dionysus told Pentheus to wear it, as it would be the only way not to be recognized by the Bacchae.
Oh, Dionysus watched entertained as Pentheus changed clothing. He had seen many amazing things in his life, yet he had never seen the proudest human of all humiliate himself in such way. Perhaps Pentheus had worn dresses before, as he was unrealistically quick at putting one on.
Ooh, but the result was just astonishing. Dionysus approved, and so they began their epic journey towards a mountain where all the Bacchae were. They walked for minutes, hours, days, over flat land, the steepest mountains.
The journey lasted several fortnights, during which they got more and more exhausted. But after this long and very thrilling quest, they finally reached their final destination. Oh my! What does he see? What have they spotted? What are they pointing at? Look! It is one of the becrazed women. In fact, it is Pentheus' mother. Pentheus, as silent as possible with some of Dionysus' directions, tries to come closer so he can spy well on her. Luckily for him, feasting, dancing mother doesn't notice anything. But look at this! Oh my goodness me! She and her dance moves really fit together like gin and tonic. Just look at those moves. Oh, but look at this! Dionysus is whistling at her. He is giving her a sign. What comes completely unexpected for Pentheus, who had already foreseen a long time ago. The completely outrageous Agua is brutally murdering her own son.
But this is just because she thinks he's a lion, because she's still under this spell. She rips off his head, and now he's truly dead, and proud with this prize she walks to her father. She is curious for how he might react, but not surprising, his reaction is full of anger, misunderstanding, and sorrow. It seems she now realizes what she has done, and she drifts away in a moment of grief and pain, sharing her feelings with Cadmus, who had warned Pentheus for this.
They sink down into a deep pool filled with all the negative spirits from Pandora's box.
Dionysus, now in the appearance of a true god, appears. He attracts the attention of Cadmus and Pentheus' mother, and when they look up, he starts shouting at them.
Shouting and yelling, he is enjoying his little moments of revenge. He punishes Pentheus' mother by sending her into exile, and just because Cadmus didn't believe in his godliness and holiness in the very beginning, he turns him and his wife into snakes.